Hello and welcome to Boxing in Your Face. My name is Joe Cortez, international boxing referee from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm here in Minnesota today. It's a special day because we have a boxing event, and we have none other than Jim Erickson, who's the director of the boxing in the state of Minnesota.
Actually, for the Mille band of Ojibwe.
Okay, start all over again.
Okay.
I'll let you say that.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to Boxing in Your Face. My name is Joe Cortez, international boxing referee from Las Vegas, Nevada. We're here in Minnesota where we have none other than Jim Erickson, who's the executive director of the boxing. Can you tell us a little bit about you're in charge of what?
Sure, Joe, thank you. I'm the executive director for the Mille band of Ojibwe Indians Athletic Commission, and we regulate all pro boxing and MMA on the tribal lands in Minnesota here.
And now, how many years have you been the executive director for the commission?
I'm going on 3 years here, and then I was a commissioner in North Dakota for about 18 years.
Now, we were talking last night a little bit about some of the work that you have done in the past, and you seem to be very, very sharp. I'm pretty impressed the way you handle the your commission here. You're a one-man operation, from what I can see.
Yeah, as an executive director, we only have right now about a half a dozen bouts a year, every other month, roughly, and we're looking at increasing that and bringing in MMA as well. So I have some times where I'm not real busy, so I fill that up with training inspectors and, of course, doing research on any fights that are proposed for the fighters, keeping up on the medical trends that are happening in boxing. We have a good crew of inspectors that I've trained. We have probably 20 to 25 on our roster, and we bring in 12 to 15 every fight. And that's a luxury that a lot of places don't have, and we're real thankful for that. So we can basically assign an inspector to a fighter, and he stays with him or her that whole time. We have female inspectors, so if we have females on the card, we don't have a problem with that. I have 5 commissioners that I work for, and they come from the different areas of the reservation, and so they can always give me good input on what people are looking for, and if there's inspectors out there that want to break into the inspecting part of it too. Now,
you have an extensive background in the amateur level as well, because we were talking last night about the amateurs. Tell us a little bit about the amateurs.
I had an uneventful amateur career myself, had about 40 fights. I won more than I lost, and that was my goal. I started later on in the late teens, so that's tough when you're going up back in the 70s when a lot of the guys were starting when they were 5 years old, and when you're breaking in that late, it's tough. I enjoyed it though, and I wanted to stay involved, so I started coaching in about 1979. Had some real good fighters up in northwest North Dakota, a little town called Williston, and if you go in the USA Boxing Record Book and you look under Virgil Hill, when he won the '84 silver medal, you'll see that he was from Williston, North Dakota. Okay. So we had him at the National Gloves. We had a lot of real good fighters. We had 4 or 5 that were ranked in the top 10 in the nation in the amateurs, and it was a support from the community that helped, as well as the quality of the athletes that we had. So been around and learned a lot from there. You come into those national tournaments and you sit and you watch how guys do the psych with their fighters before the fight, how they wrap hands, how they talk to fighters after they lose, after they win. You just try to absorb as much as you can. And again, I was lucky enough to go to several national tournaments. Most of them were held in Colorado Springs at that time, and some of the junior tournaments around the nation. And it was a good time in the amateurs. Yeah.
What do you think we can do today, or what will you do in the state of boxing, in the state of Minnesota, in reference to boxing, to bring it up to another level? Be that boxing has kind of dwindled a little bit, there's not too much happening too much. What do you think, what do you recommend for trainers to do on the amateur level to get these fighters prepared for the professional ranks?
That's a good question, Joe. I know a lot of people are working that. USA Boxing is trying some different things. Different states are trying their own thing individually, different regions, LBCs. I think it's getting to them while they're young, because there are so many more opportunities for young kids these days. There's soccer, and there's up by us there's hockey, and there's baseball, and if they get ingrained, some of those sports start at 3 or 4 years old. By the time they're 8 or 10, they're old pros at whatever it is they've taken up. But if you can get to those kids early, get to the schools. I think it's very important to work with the schools. You may have a boxer that has a little trouble in school, and when we had our amateur program, they didn't have to be A students, but their grades weren't allowed to slip, so we kind of followed the eligibility rules that the high schools and the grade schools had. And if you're on good terms with the administrators, they'll once in a while let you take a kid to a tournament that maybe his grades aren't the best, but they've maintained, and he's shaped up his act in school. And I think the court systems, the police departments are another place to go. Police are out with the people all the time, and they may say, I got a kid that you guys need to get a hold of. You need to talk to him. I'll send him to the gym or whatever. Parents groups, again, just getting to the kids when they're young or when they're vulnerable, and getting to the parents and getting to the court systems and the schools and all working together.
Okay, that's true. Because, I believe that boxing, or all sports for that matter, the kids learn how to be, you teach them discipline, the self-esteem goes up, the confidence level goes up, and of course, like you said, they keep their grades in good standings, they stay on with the programs. And I think that's good, because a lot of our viewers out there have a lot of youth in the communities, and I tell the adults you should get more involved and help these kids out, because these kids out there, they need somebody that can direct them in the right direction. Being a role model to these kids, I know I like to do that. I like to give back to the community. I'm sure you do as well. And I think that's so important that we help these youth programs, because what we need is more sponsors and individuals to get involved to help with the boxing programs. But any sport is good for any youngster, as long as you keep them occupied, and it's good to keep them physically fit, because there's too much of that computer stuff. They're sitting behind the computer for so many hours a day. They're not exercising enough. And I think that any sport is really good for the kid. But being that we're involved with boxing, we favor boxing. But again, the parents got to get involved. The parents are part of the solution to solve the problem we're having with the youth around the country today. And I believe that in boxing was good for me. I'm sure it wasn't for yourself. It kept me on the right track, because I was born and raised in Spanish Harlem in New York, and it was very difficult growing up, but I gravitated towards boxing, and that kept me on the right track. And the great Gaspar Indian Ortega, former welterweight contender back in the 50s and 60s, he's the one that took me under his wing, got me started. And that's what I try to teach youngsters out there. Get a role model, get somebody in the community, a big brother, a big sister, somebody to guide you in the right direction, because we need a lot of that.
Yes.
Now, you as a commissioner, I've been this my second time coming to Minneapolis to referee, and tonight we have a boxing show. Can you tell us a little bit about the program tonight?
Tonight's show has gotten a lot of national attention, actually, because we have a NFL player by the name of Ray Edwards that was signed with the Minnesota Vikings. He's played his last few years there. He's making his professional boxing debut, and of course, Tommy Z, the Ravens player, has had some boxing, and way back when had Too-Tall Jones, and we've had Ross Purdy, I think, was a college football player. I don't think he played professionally, but you had a few football players transition into boxing, not always with the best results, but with Ray's popularity, with the lockout going on, his teammates are still in town, and it's a big draw. But what we're looking at the promoter doing is he's also trying to put on a real nice undercard with local, new, some of them not so new, up-and-coming talent, prospects, if you will, some of the best prospects, so that crowd is drawn in. They're there to see the feature event, if you will, between Ray Edwards and TJ Gibson, but they're also going to be exposed to the boxers that are on the undercard, and we're hoping that they get that live feeling for a boxing match if they've never been to one before, and they say, I'm going to come to another one of these. I want to see some more live boxing. And that's, hopefully it goes smoothly for us, and that's what we gain out of it.
Absolutely. I think that you get new fans that come into the sport. They catch the bug, and they love it. And like you said, hopefully they'll be coming back again in the near future. Because we definitely need that in boxing. We have to generate new talent and new fans as well. Tell us a little bit about mixed martial arts in the state of Minneapolis, or Minnesota.
Mixed martial arts is very popular here because Minnesota is pretty rich in wrestling, and a lot of the high schools and colleges have excellent wrestling programs. There's a young man by the name of Marcus Levasseur that is one of maybe 5, I think, college wrestlers that went through 4 years of college and never lost a match. He was a 4-time national champion. He's now working with MMA. And you see a lot of the wrestling background here in the surrounding states. You know, Iowa's not that far away, and you understand how big a program they had in wrestling. So I think a lot of the wrestling background MMA participants are learning all the other sports that are included in mixed martial arts. They're learning the boxing, they're going with the jiu-jitsu, and they're going into the different gyms, but they've got that good base of wrestling here, so they are able to leverage that towards some careers in MMA. I mean, one of the examples that everybody knows is Brock Lesnar. Was a University of Minnesota wrestling champion, went on to become a UFC champion early in his career, and I understand he's had some health problems, has had to back out of his last scheduled fight here, but he's one of the prime examples.
That's great. Now, you're a member of the ABC, American Boxing Commissioners, and tell us a little bit about how that organization works and how it helps you out as a commissioner.
Okay. Well, I'm the first vice president. I'm serving my third term as one of the vice presidents for the Association of Boxing Commissions, and it's a group of commissions made up of commissions from tribal lands, states, provinces in Canada, and Puerto Rico. Now, the provinces in Canada are associate members. They can't vote. They can be on committees and so on, but they can't vote because the Association of Boxing Commissions is set up and uses the Muhammad Ali Act as its guidelines. And the Muhammad Ali Act is federal law in the U.S., but it is not in Canada, so you can't really hold them in step with that. It's an organization that monitors boxing in general. It monitors a lot of the health improvements for the boxers. It monitors new trends in training. It monitors, we actually have a compliance committee so that if there's a report comes out every Monday, and if someone fights on suspension, we call that commission and say, did this one slip by, or did you have the suspension taken care of, but the paperwork crossed in the mail, or what happened? So we serve as a bit of a watchdog group. We don't have any policing powers to bring any charges or anything like that. That's up to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and they have a specific set of misdemeanors and fines and whatnot that can be levied. But we like to, I think, educate and share ideas. You look at your own executive director, Keith Kaiser. You look at the folks in California, you look at some of the other states, Texas, that have so many bouts. And they can share some very valuable information with some of the states that don't have as many bouts. Yeah. And it's the same way with the commissioners. You may have a commissioner that's been there and seen everything, and you may have a new commissioner that's an appointed official that's not that familiar with it. So he can come into the Association of Boxing Commissions. He can network with all the commissioners from across the country and get contacts so that he can, if he has a question, he should feel comfortable to call one of us or email us or whatever. Contact us, reach out to us.
Yeah. Well, I think that you as an executive director for the state of Minnesota, you're doing a great job. I've watched you in action, and I was watching you last night when you were doing the weigh-in. And I see you're a one-man operation and you have everything under control. What advice can you give some of the newer commissioners or those that want to be involved with boxing at an administrative level? What good advice can you give them?
Work on your administrative and organizational skills, because boxing is not like if you've been an administrator at a school or something, or an athletic director at a school. You have access to those people every day. Boxers, 2 weeks before the fight, they may change half the card, and you got to start all over, getting their medicals and all that. But be organized so that you can put a lot of legwork in before the event. That'll make your event run smoother. If you wait till the day of the event to do a lot of things, you can. And I've done that where we've had changes in the card, or a medical we're waiting on or something. The closer you get to bout time, the more things are going through your head about the bout, and your prep isn't probably as sharp as it should be. So I would say do a lot of reading. The Muhammad Ali Act is on the webs. abcboxing.com is a very good website. It has information, unified rules. It has a lot of things like that. Go to the fights. Watch. Go talk to some commissioners that are currently working. I always look at it, the commission's job is twofold. It's number one is to protect the fighters, which everybody understands. We want to make sure that they're physically taken care of, that their meds are met, there's a doctor there, there's an ambulance there, competent referees such as yourself to control the action inside the ring. We want to look after their financial well-being, making sure that the contract is valid, that they're getting paid what they were supposed to be paid, that if they have any travel expenses that's in the contract, that all that is taken care of for them as well. The other part of it is also protecting the public. We don't think that the public should plunk down hard-earned dollars to watch an 11-0 guy fight an 0-11 guy. that shouldn't be made a match anyway because of the discrepancies, but you'll get into some areas where you have to think about the crowd too. You'll have we work with some pretty good matchmakers up here and promoters, but you get into some of the areas and you have that promoter is just, or the matchmaker is just hammering on you, oh, we got to get my guy a win. I don't have to get your guy. Your guy has to get himself a win. So you try to be fair for the fighters, and that makes it fair for the public. And again, I think that'll bring them back. If they know, even if they're not familiar with the fighters, but if they know you put on good, even, tough matches, I think they'll become fans.
Very good. Well, fans, we want to thank you very much for tuning in and listening to Jim Erickson. And it was very, very informative program today because it's a little different. And not bringing in a boxer, we're bringing an administrator who does a great job here in Minneapolis. And we want to thank you so much for the information and the guidelines you're giving the viewers out there. And we'll say goodbye for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
Okay, and Nick, take it away.
All right.
Perfect. Okay. Perfect. That was good. Good information. See, because now what I will do is, I'll say, Nick, take it away. We have a reporter in San Francisco who